everyone. Yeah. Hello everyone. Here we are again with a new episode of network security. So we'll get started with the topic itself. We'll try to secure a network. We'll try to see what are the different types of ways in which we can secure our network. Let me present my screen. Okay. So here we have the network security, introduction to network security. How in a what good manner you're going to secure a network, what are the best practices you're going to implement to secure a network is what we will be looking into it. What do you mean by security? When we implement our CIA triad, confidentiality, integrity, availability in infrastructure to protect our data from any kind of breaches is what we call as the network security. Okay. Apart from the CIA triad, we have the non-repudiation and authentication also. The triple A we have as well as the non-repudiation. What does this non-repudiation means? So the sender cannot deny the fact that it has sent some data, whereas the receiver cannot deny the fact that it has received some data. What is the impact? What is the importance of network security? We all know we require to protect our digital asset. We require to protect our digital data. For that, we need to protect our network from any kind of breaches. And this is what I was talking about. Like you can implement this network security concept like that CIA tried. Threat modeling you can implement, layered security you can implement, as well as access control you can implement to protect your network and to maintain the security of your network. These are the common network security threat. You can do DOS attack, you can do eavesdropping if it is a switched based network. You can get unauthorized access and you can get malware. You can send malware to the particular place. And talking about the principle of network security, so these are the principle. I'll just skip this part for now. I'll show you, I'll demonstrate how we can implement network security. We might have heard about many places, we might have heard about many things through which we can implement network security. But one of the simplest thing that we forget in real life is what we call as the NAT. Okay, this NAT is a feature of our IPv4 to protect the private IP and the public IP. So basically NAT, that is network address translation, is a type of security by default comes in the IPv4 addressing. Okay, so in NAT what happens? Our private IP, basically the INA, has divided the IP addresses into two schemes, that is the public and the private schemes. Public addresses are accessible on the internet, whereas the private addresses are not accessible on the internet. Right. So to convert the private address to public address and convert the public address to private address, we require this NAT, network address translation. So we can enable this NAT in any router in our Cisco packet tracer, I mean real life. So this is our Cisco packet tracer where we have all the physical, all the networking devices that we can use. We have network devices like we have router here. I'll click on a router and I will click on two PCs. One will be in our private side, another will be in our public side. And what I will do, I'll label it. Labeling is important to understand how the network is being configured. So this is it. And this is our public network. Close it and label this as private network. This is a public network. Okay. Private network range is there from class ABC. We have this 10.0.0. We have 172.16 slash 24, and at last we have 192.168.0.0/24. So let me give an IP address network range for this site, that is 192.168 dot. Let's suppose it is 10.0/24. This is our private range. Public range can be anything. I can specify something like this also. I can specify 170 or 191.167.10.0. 192.168.24. So we have a public address, we have a private range, and we need to specify the IP address to it. We'll go and connect it from here to here, from here to here. Okay, we need to go and make the connection. So what happens in NAT? We try to convert the private address to public address. So here I will give an IP address to this PC, that is 192.168.10. Let's suppose it is 10. This IP address is 192.168.10.1. This IP address is 191.167.10.1, and this is 191.167.10. Suppose 10. Okay, so what happens in NAT? Our private address, that is this address, is converted to public address, that is this address. Okay, we need to do the configuration in such a way. So what happens if we don't configure it? What happens if they don't implement NAT? Suppose a user is there, he accesses the Google server or any server on the internet. If a hacker is there, if a unauthorized attacker is there, he will try to get the IP address of the machine. He will get the IP address of the machine and he will try to trace back to its origin. When he will try to trace back to its origin, he will be able to get an access to the system also. But what this NAT does in between, our IP address is changed. Even if the attacker will try to trace back, they will not be able to go inside this particular private area network. Okay, so that's what our NAT is. We can take it in a very simple language also. We have our home, or let's take, we have a hotel. Inside that hotel, we have so many rooms, right? Suppose an attacker traces a what you say, a rich man. He will try to follow the particular person. After going inside this hotel, this security guard won't allow this particular person to go and follow inside the hotel. So this is one type of security that is by default present in the IPv4 addressing scheme. So NAT, network address translation, can be of different types. We have static NAT, where we manually give IP address to where we manually exchange IP address, one private address. You can see this example. Um, so this private address is converted to this public address, and it goes to the internet and brings data from the public server. That is what we call as the static NAT. That is what we call as the static NAT. This is the inside part. This part is the inside one, and this side is the outside one. And we need to do the configuration for it. So first of all, we need to go to the router. We need to label which interface of the router belongs to which network, whether it is an inside network or whether it is an outside network. Inside means the private part, outside means the public part. So that's what we need to do, and we need to give the IP addresses to it. We need to give the IP addresses to it. So that's what our static NAT is. We try to convert one IP address to one. We try to map one private IP address to one public IP address. That is what static NAT is. So there are three types of NAT. We have static NAT, we have dynamic NAT, and we have PAT. Okay. So most of the time we'll be using PAT, port address translation. Okay. So what we can do now is do the configuration of static NAT, where we will map one private IP address to one public IP address. For that, we need to go to that router. We need to tell the router which part it belongs to, which is the inside part, which is the outside part. So we can say inside network, and this is outside network. Okay, we need to go to the router. We can go to CLI directly, write the command for it. So we don't want to do the initial configuration. We enable it. We go to configure terminal, and sorry, we need to go to configure terminal. Inside configure terminal, we need to go to that interface gigabyte 0/0/0, hit enter. So what we need to do, we need to type the command IP. You can type NAT. So it says when we type IP NAT, it will say whether it is an inside network or outside network. Before giving IP NAT, we give IP address, that is 192.168.10.1. Okay, give the subnet mask, that is 255.255.255.0. We type IP NAT, it is inside network. Okay, and we type the command no shutdown. We type the command no shutdown. That side will be green. Exit out of this interface, go to the other interface gigabyte 0/0/1. You can type it down here, 0/0/1. And what is the IP address of it? IP address 191.167.10.1, 255.255.255.0. IP NAT, this is outside network. Okay, this is what we, very important, you need to label which side of the router is inside network and which side is the outside network. So type no shutdown, switch it on, close it. To do the NAT configuration, I'll do it. Before that, I'll try to do the configuration of this thing. I will go to the PC, I'll go to desktop, I'll give the IP address of this place, that is 192.168.10.10. And yeah, we have the default gateway. Default gateway will be this router's IP address. So we will specify the router IP address 192.168.10.1. I will close this one. I will go to this place and give the IP address this side to 191.168.10.10. What's the default gateway? Default gateway is this site's IP address. It is 191.167.10.1. I'll close this pop-up, and now we need to do the NAT configuration. To do the NAT configuration, okay, so what we can do is very simple. We need to type the command something like this. We need to type in the router config mode IP NAT inside source static, give the inside local IP address and inside global IP address, the private IP address and the public IP address. So we need to go to router config mode. IP, the command was IP NAT question mark. It is inside, so inside question mark source question mark static question mark. Give the inside local IP address. What is our inside local IP address? This is our inside local IP address. This IP address will need to be converted to this 191.167.10.1. So we need to specify the inside local IP address, that is 192.168.10.10 question mark. Inside global IP address is this side one. It is 191.167.10.1. Okay, so now what we can do, we can just exit and we can write the configuration. Let's see if we have done it successfully. I'll try to send a message from this PC to the router. Yeah, it is successful. Can it be done from the public side, from the PC to the router? Both are successful. Now if I send the data from here to the router, it is successful. So what we have done, we have implemented NAT. So if I type the configuration something like this, I show NAT IP NAT translation, what is being translated. You can see this is the translation that we have got. Okay, you can see the inside local IP address 192.168.10.10 is converted to what? Inside global IP address, that is 192.167.10.1. This will act as a security when an attacker from the public place will try to attack, and it will come back to the router. But inside the router, if we have many pieces, he or she, the attacker, will not be able to find the exact person to target. Okay, so this is one example of implementing security that most of the network professional will forget about it. This is the basic thing of it. Okay, we can implement IDS, we can implement access control, we can implement firewall, no doubt about it, nothing wrong with it. But this is the very basic thing that implements a security in an infrastructure. Okay, So we have static net. Apart from that, we have dynamic net. In the static net, we map one IP address to one public IP address, one private IP address to one public IP address. When it comes down to the dynamic net, inside it, there will be many pieces. You can observe here that in the private part, in the private network, in the inside network, there will be many pieces. Okay. So what can we do in this particular dynamic net? We will create a pool of IP addresses like we create in DHCP, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. And whoever requires to use the internet or public places, they will be accessing the IP addresses that are present in the table. Okay. So when we configure dynamic net, we try to implement access control. We try to implement some more security features also. So what I can do now, I can do a dynamic net configuration. And how can it be done? I'll scroll down, take the same thing. Let's suppose we'll take a router here, and inside the private part, we have three pieces, one, two, three. Inside the public part, we have a server that is in public side. We'll take the private label. We need to label it properly. This is our private part. This is the public side of the network. Labeling is important, otherwise you will forget what configuration you need to do. So it is 192.168.10.0/24, my private network. This is a public network. Let me give it to 200.200.200.0/24. Okay, and I need to connect everything to this router. For that, we require a switch because router has only three interfaces. This particular version of router has only three interfaces, so we cannot connect 1, 2, 3, 4 PCs and server to it. So for that, we require a switch. Connect everything. If it is the same device, you use the straight through. If it is different devices, you can use this all other kind of cable. So here, I'll connect it. You need to remember which port it is connected to. Gigabyte Ethernet 00 is 001 is connected to the public side, and 000 is connected to the private side. I'll label it here. This is inside network. This is outside the network. Okay. So now what I can do, I can just forward it. Same goes for private. Same goes for static and dynamic. Both things we do the same kind of thing. Like we need to go to the interface of the router, and we need to tell the router that which side does it belongs to, whether it belongs to an inside network or whether it belongs to the outside network. Before labeling it, you need to, before telling the router which side does it belongs to, you need to label the IP addresses. So it is 192.168.10.1. I will not give one. One will be for router. Undefined rule in the field of networking. 192.168.10.20, 192.168.10.30. What about this router's IP address? It is 192.168.10.1. What about this side? It is 200.200.200.1, and this is 200.200.200.10. We need to go and label. We need to go and configure every places, but before that, we'll go and configure the router. Go to CLI. We type no, and here. So we need to go to the configure terminal. Enable. Go to config terminal. Inside that, you need to go to that interface gigabyte 0/0/0/0. Give the IP address. IP add 192.168.10.1 255.255.255.0, and you need to tell which side it is. IP NAT inside. No shutdown you do. This side will be on. Exit out of this place. Let's see this side. So it is interface gigabyte 0/0/1 IP add. It's 200.200.200.1. Okay. Subnet mask 255.255.255.0. It belongs to class C and label this as outside network. IP NAT outside. No shutdown you can perform. This side will also be green. Now what you can do, you can go and configure each and everything now. Go to the PC, go to the desktop, go and give the IP address 192.168.10.10. Here, default gateway we need to specify 192.168.10.10.1. Okay, it is 10.1. Okay, so it is not working. Okay, it is working now. 192.168.10.20. Then this one is, oops, 192.168.10.1. Go to desktop, go to IP configuration, give the IP addresses again 192.168.10.30. Default gateway is this one. Check it whether you have done one side completely correct or not. Complete everything. From here to here, it is successful. From here to here, it is successful. What about from here to here? It is successful. Okay, let me go and do this side. We go to service, we go to desktop, we go to services and give the IP addresses here 192, sorry, 200.200.200.10 and default gateway is 200.200.200.1. Fine. Now if I send a message from this side to this side, it is also successful. Now to do dynamic net, we need to have a pool of addresses here. Okay, not only this address is there, we should have some more. Let's suppose 200.200.200.2, 200.200.200.3. So this side we have three IP addresses. Whoever requires to go into internet and bring information, they can go by using this all IP address. How do you do the configuration now? You go to the switch, sorry, you go to the router, you exit out of this, go to normal configuration mode, and after that, to configure this dynamic net, you need to create a pool, IP net pool, give the pool name, start of the IP address, end of the IP address. Okay, so we need to type the command IP net pool. We go to router, we go to the router, we type the command IP net pool question mark, give the pool name. Let's suppose the pool name is security question mark. Start of the IP address, it is 200.200.200.1. End of the IP address 200.200.200.3 question mark. Network marks 255.255.255.0. Invalid detected. Incomplete command detected question mark. We type, sorry, net marks question mark. What is the network marks? 255.255.255.0. Okay, so we have specified the pool now. We have specified the pool. After that, what we are going to do, we are going to create an access list. You can see here, we can create an access list. Now, this access list is also another security thing that you can implement to protect your network. Okay, access list is another important thing. So you can type the command IP access list. We can provide a standard access list. So we can just go to the router. You can type the command IP access list question mark. It is a standard one. Standard will have some limited number of options, whereas extended one will have a lot of option. Give a name to it. I will give the name to it as security 123. Give a named standard access control list. What we are going to do, we are going to permit. Okay, you can either permit a traffic, you can either deny a traffic. So permit, what type of traffic? You can specify the host, you can specify any. Okay, so we have created the access list, and I has didn't specify any kind of network ID and wildcard marks. I permitted everything. I permitted everything. So now to do the NAT configuration, you can type the command ipnat source list access list name and pool name. So we can type the command ipnat. So exit out of this place first. So ipnat question mark. It is inside source list. Inside source list. Last time we did static. This time we'll do list. We give the access list name, that is security 123, I guess so. Security, the name of it 123, security 123 question mark. Give the name of that pool. What was the name of that pool that we have created? The name of that pool that we have created is security. In valid command it says 123 question mark. We give pool question mark security. Okay, we end the configuration and we write the configuration. Configuration is building now. So what happens here, whoever requires an IP address will take an IP address from this place and it will go to the internet, bring the information, get it back. So I'll send a message from here to here, it is successful. Send a message from this PC to this PC, it is successful. Send a message from this PC to this PC, it will be successful. Now if I go to router and type the command show IP NAT translation, you can see that which IP address has taken which private IP address. This private IP address, that is 192.168.10.10, has taken 200.200.200.1. 192.168.10.20 has taken the IP address 200.200.200.2. 192.168.10.30 has taken the IP address 200.200.200.3. So this is how you implement dynamic net. Another type of configuration is that is what we call as the PAT, port address translation. Suppose in the inside network there are many PCs, but in the translation part we have only one public IP address to translate. At that time we note down the port number. We have this 65,535 number of port, correct? So we note down the port from which port the message is coming, and with the public IP address will mention the port. Let's suppose it is coming from X port, it will specify X port. If it is coming from Y number port, it will specify Y number port. So this is how you implement a security, very basic thing that we forget as a network engineer or administrator. This is how you implement a security. By default implementation is there for IPv4. When we talk about IPv6, this doesn't, we don't take this into consideration. Okay, before going into firewalls, before going into IDS, IPS, you should be very familiar, you should be very good and fluent with this NAT. Okay, so we have the PPT, but I will not share to you. I have discussed couple of things, many things from this Cisco packet tracer. I have told you about NAT and how does it improve the security. Okay, if an attacker is there outside the network, if an attacker is there outside the network, so what happens is that it will come back to this place, it will come back to the place, and inside network IP address it will not be able to find it. Inside network IP address will not be able to find it. So that's all for today's live session on how do you implement security in a network, in an infrastructure. And we'll see you again in some other live session with some interesting topic related to network or related to cyber security. Thank you all for viewing. We'll see you.